I'm Anita. Welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be making a pair of earrings using some chili beads and some other beads from my stash. I'll have links in the description box below to where you can find these different materials. If you click more below this video, you'll get all the details, including a link to my website. Alright, so let's get started. I'll review with you what we're making today, and here's a glimpse of the earring we're going to be making today. In addition to that, you're going to need for tools a couple of pair of flat nose pliers. You're also going to need some round nose pliers, and you're going to need some wire cutters and a pair of scissors. I'm using 6-pound fireline today, and I'm going to be using a size 12 beading needle with a stop bead. So we're going to use about a 36-inch length of fireline for today. For materials, you're going to need a couple of eye pins, a couple of earring hooks, a couple of 4mm jump rings, and I'm using 2mm spacer beads in gold. I also have a couple of leaf accents in gold, Dragonfly focal, and if you subscribe to Dollar Bead Box, you might remember these particular beads here came from the, I think it was October-November Dollar Bead Box. I still have so many beads left over from that. You can make so many things. So I decided to make a pair of earrings using the chili beads, and also I've added some Superduos from my stash in a cream color. You're also going to need some 4mm and 6mm rounds, and I'll have details for all the quantities and links for what you're going to need today. So let's get started. The first thing you want to do is you want to thread your needle with about 30 inches of fireline, 6-pound, and I've got a stop bead on here, and you want to leave about a 6 to 8 inch tail so that we can weave that in. So the first thing we're going to do is start by picking up one of our chili beads. And our chili bead is a 2-hole bead, and it's got a little bit of a concave shape to it. So I'm going to put my bead on by going in through the top hole in this direction. I'm going to bring that down. Now I'm going to pick up a 4mm bead in green, and I'm going to pick up another chili bead, and I'm picking this up in an alternate color, and I'm going to go in through the hole in this direction with the cup facing in, because we want those 2 chili beads to surround the 4mm bead. So that's what you're going to have. So we're going to repeat that. Pick up another chili bead, and we're going through the back like this, then a 4mm bead, then our next chili bead by going in the top hole with the cup facing in. I'm going to repeat that 2 more times. So that's what you should have so far. So at this point, in case you're wondering why I have different colors of chili beads, the amounts that I got in the Dollar Bead Box weren't quite enough to do 2 complete pairs of one color. So I decided it would make it really interesting to alternate the colors. So that's why I chose to do it like that. But you can certainly do chili beads all in one color. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and take my stop bead off. And I'm going to tie this in a knot just by crossing my thread over once, like that. And I'm going to pull this together, nice and snug. So from here I'm going to do a surgeon's knot. I'm going to bring my tail back over, come through the loop 2 times. And I'm going to pull nice and snug. Then we're going to do one more overhand knot. Just bring our tail thread over and through the loop once and pull that nice and tight. So these are going to flip around for the moment, but don't worry about that. So that's what you should have so far. All right, for our next step, right now our thread is coming out of this chili bead, the bottom hole here, the very first hole. We're going to advance our needle through the next top hole of the chili bead, like that. Just keep your tail thread out of the way. Now we're going to pick up our 6mm round. And now we're going to advance our needle through the empty hole of the chili bead directly next in line, like that. You want to pull that snug, make sure that your bead is not tangled up in the thread. So pull that nice and snug. Now we're going to pick up a Superduo, and it doesn't matter which hole you go into. And check your Superduos to make sure none of your holes are blocked. Same goes for any multi-hole bead that you may be working with. So we're going to go through this empty hole of the next chili bead, placing our Superduo in between these two beads here. And when you pull, you want to make sure your Superduo is nestled nice and tight in between those two beads, like that. So we're going to repeat this pattern all the way around. Now I'm going to pick up a 6mm round, go into the empty hole of the next chili bead, pull, make sure your bead is nestled correctly, pull nice and snug. Now pick up a Superduo, go into the next empty hole chili bead. Now we're going to pick up another 6mm. I can find the hole. There we go. Go into the empty hole of the next chili bead and pull. And just check, make sure that your bead is sitting correctly. Now we're going to pick up another Superduo. Go into the empty hole of the next chili bead. Pick up our last 6mm round and go into the empty hole of the chili bead. And you may have to go at an angle to get the bead in there. Pull, make sure that nestles in between your chili beads. Now we're going to add one more Superduo here, exiting here, going into the next empty hole of the chili bead. Let's get this tail thread out of the way. And just make sure you've got that Superduo nestled nice and neat, like that. So that's what you should have so far. All right, for our next step, all right, now our thread is coming out of that chili bead. We're going to advance through this 6mm bead here. We're also going to advance through the chili bead, that top hole. We're also going to advance through the bottom hole of that Superduo that's following, like that. And from here, you could end this here and add a jump ring for your earring finding, or you can go with the extra embellishment, which is to put 3 Superduos at the top. So that's what I'm going to do next. So I'm going to pick up a Superduo, and I'm going to go into the empty hole at the top of this Superduo right here. Now I'm going to pick up another Superduo. We're going to go through the top hole of that Superduo we just added. Pull that snug. Now we're going to pick up our last Superduo, and we're going from this hole into this hole here. And that's what you should have so far. So to add some strength to this, what we're going to do is bring our needle coming from this hole here up to this top hole. And we're going to have a little bit of a thread bridge there, but that's okay. Now we're going to come back down to this top hole of the next Superduo in line, and we're going to go through all 3 beads like that. Pull that nice and snug to give that a little bit of reinforcement. So from here, we're exiting this Superduo. We're going to come back down to this bottom hole where we're coming out of, and we want to go through all 3 beads. If you can't do it in one step, you can do it in 2, but we want to come through like that. Pull. Now I'm going to bring my needle coming out of this bottom hole down to this bottom hole of this Superduo at the beginning of your little shape, and then we're going to go through the chili bead also, like that. And that just reinforces that little embellishment like that. All right, so now I'm just going to advance my needle through a few more beads. We're going to go through this 6mm round here. A little tricky because of the shapes, but just take your time. Now I'm going to go through this chili bead through the top hole and the Superduo. Might have to do that in 2 steps though. So I'm going to advance through the Superduo and the chili bead. Now I'm going to do a half hitch knot right here. So my thread is in between this 6mm and chili bead. I'm going to come under the thread bridge like that, form a loop, bring my needle through, and pull. So now I'm going to advance through my 6mm and my chili bead. I'm going to advance through my Superduo and the chili bead, and I'm going to do another half hitch knot right here. Come under the thread bridge, make a small loop, bring your needle back through, and pull. Now I'm just going to advance through a few more beads, and I'll be cutting this thread off. I'm going to advance through this one and through this last 6mm and chili bead. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and clip this thread off. And what we're going to do is we're going to thread our needle onto this other tail thread. So go ahead and do that, and we'll be weaving that thread in. So I have my tail thread with the needle on it, and we're coming out of this bottom hole of this chili bead here. So what we're going to do is we're going to advance through the chili bead, through the 4mm round like that. We'll do a half hitch knot here between the 4mm round and the chili bead. And my knot did not want to cooperate. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to advance through the chili bead, the bottom hole. We're going to advance through this chili bead and the next 4 millimeter. We can do another half hitch knot right here and advance through a few more beads. And I'm going to clip this thread off right here. So that's what we should have so far. Got a couple of more steps to do. So depending on your preference, you could stop here and just put this on an earring finding with a small jump ring. But I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to add this dragonfly at the bottom. Now the finished length on this piece right here is about 1 inch. When I add my dragonfly, it's going to end up being about a 2.5 inch pair of earrings. Pretty long. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to take this leaf accent and put that on my eye pin. So I'm going to open my eye pin by pulling this towards me like that. Now I'll put my leaf on and close my eye pin like that. So now I'm going to take a 2 millimeter spacer. I'm going to put my dragonfly on, and now I'm going to put my other 2 millimeter spacer, and I'm going to make a simple loop. And with the direction that this is facing, I want my loops to be facing the same way. So I'm going to take my flat nose pliers and I'm going to bend this 90 degrees to the right, like that. So I'm going to take my wire cutters and I'm going to clip off the extra wire here, about right there. So from here I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to form a loop. And I want this loop big enough that I'll be able to pass this through the Superduo. So I'm going to start this kind of big, like that. Get that partially open so that I can slip this on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass this through my Superduo bead. And it's a little tricky. So I've got my Superduo on. So now I'm going to close my loop. You want to be careful not to crack your Superduo. So I'm just going to bring this loop down nice and tight like that. And there we have a closed loop. So the reason you want these loops to be facing the same direction is so that the orientation will hang correctly. So now from here we're going to add our earring hook to the top. So I'm going to take my flat nose pliers and open up this 4 millimeter jump ring by twisting this like that. So I'm going to slip on my Superduo right here. And I have to open this up just a little bit more. Okay, a little bit of a struggle here getting this on. I ended up rounding this a little bit more to get this to go on. So I'm putting this 4mm jump ring on my Superduo, and you just want to be careful not to crack it, like that. And now we're going to put our earring hook on, and just make sure that your earring hook is facing front. So now we're going to close this, like that. So there we have our beautiful chili bead earrings with our dragonfly focal and a couple of leaf accents. Very pretty. So many ways that you can make a pair of earrings like this. So have fun with this and be creative with whatever you have in your bead stash. If you don't have all the colors that you need, try mixing and matching like this. You'd be amazed at what you could create. So this concludes today's tutorial. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and thanks for joining me today. I have a website where I sell my own jewelry. You'll see the link to that in the description box. And also keep a watch for periodic sales. You might find a great deal. If you're not a subscriber, I hope that you do subscribe, and please give this video a thumbs up. That would really help me a great deal. Thank you so much. And thanks to you who have subscribed and keep coming back to watch my videos. I really appreciate it very much. So I hope you all have a wonderful week. Happy beading, and I'll see you next time.